The grand chamber of the Galactic Concordat buzzed with voices. Representatives from 17 advanced alien civilizations gathered on the neutral space station. The station orbited Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth's sun. Tall windows showed the red dwarf star glowing against the black of space. Commander Jun Kim of the United Earth Defense Force stood at his assigned spot. His back was straight and his face showed no emotion. He could feel the unfriendly looks from the alien delegates across the room. Many of them had fought against Earth ships just months ago. "The human delegation is late again," said Ambassador Krell of the Arcturus hegemony. The translator changed his clicking speech into human words. Krell's skin was almost see-through and it pulsed with blue light when he was angry. Right now it was very blue. June did not answer. He kept his eyes on the main door. Earth's diplomatic team was late on purpose. Their leader, Chief Negotiator Hannah Park, had planned it this way. In space diplomacy, even small things like timing could send important messages. "Perhaps they have realized they cannot win and have abandoned these talks," said a tall, thin delegate from the Rigel systems. His 8 eyes blinked in different patterns as he spoke. The room fell quiet as the doors finally opened. Hannah Park entered with her team of 5 humans. Unlike the aliens with their fancy robes and glowing tech parts, the humans wore simple gray uniforms. Each uniform had only the Earth symbol on the shoulder, a blue circle showing all continents, united as one. "We apologize for our delay," Hannah said in a clear, strong voice that reached all corners of the room. She was not tall, but she stood with confidence. "We needed extra time to review the latest terms from the Concordat." The head of the Galactic Concordat, High Minister Zoral, nodded his large head. His species came from a heavy gravity world, and even in the lighter gravity of the station he moved slowly. "The terms are fair to all parties," Zoral said. "Please take your seats so we may begin day 1 of our peace summit." The human team walked to their table. Besides Hannah and Commander June, there was Science Officer Tae-Jin Lee with his data tablets, Security Chief Yoon Choi whose eyes missed nothing, Medical Director Min Ri who understood alien biology, and Vice Minister Ji-Ho Kang who specialized in trade agreements. What none of the aliens knew was what the humans had really been doing during their delay. Earth's fastest quantum computers had been analyzing the peace treaty. They found 17 hidden problems in the agreement, traps that would have slowly turned Earth into a controlled planet within 30 years. As Hannah took her seat, she exchanged a quick look with Tae-Jin. He gave a small nod, confirming their findings. "We will begin with the matter of the disputed outer colonies," announced Zoral. "The Concordat proposes a shared management system." Hannah opened her notes. "Before we discuss colonies, we wish to address Section 27 of the proposed treaty regarding technology exchange." A murmur went through the alien delegates. They had not expected the humans to focus on that section so quickly. "That is scheduled for day 3 discussions," said Ambassador Krell, his skin pulsing faster. "If we cannot agree on technology sharing, the other points become meaningless," Hannah replied calmly. "Especially since your current proposal requires Earth to share all our adaptive shield designs while receiving only outdated drive systems in return." The chamber grew tense. The Arcturus delegate's skin now flashed with spots of red. How could they know the drive systems are 3 generations behind? Whispered one alien to another, not realizing human hearing was better than they thought. Commander June watched the reactions around the room. As a military officer, he had fought these same species in space. Now he had to fight them with words instead of weapons. The war had started when human colony ships entered what the Concordat claimed was their space. But those areas had no markers, no warnings, almost as if they wanted humans to enter. "Perhaps we can adjust the technology exchange portions," offered a delegate from the Pleiades systems, trying to calm the situation. Hannah nodded. "We are open to fair exchanges. However, we also notice Section 42 requires Earth to accept Concordat oversight of our population growth, which no other member world has to accept." More surprised murmurs filled the room. The humans were finding all the hidden traps. During the lunch break, the human team gathered in their private room. The walls were scanned for listening devices before they spoke freely. They're getting nervous, Yun said, checking the security feeds on her tablet. The Arcturus group has called 3 emergency meetings in the last hour. Tae-jin spread out data charts on the table. Their proposed treaty is full of one-sided terms. They clearly expected us to be so desperate for peace that we wouldn't read the fine print. Hana studied the information. That's been their mistake from the beginning. They think because they have more advanced ships and weapons, they're smarter in all ways. It's strange, said Min, looking through biological data. In the field of medicine, most advanced species specialize. They become experts in narrow areas, but miss connections outside their focus. Humans still think more broadly. Jiho nodded. That's our advantage. We're not the strongest or most advanced, but we see patterns others miss. Commander Jun, who had been quiet, finally spoke. We should be careful not to show all we know at once. Keep some findings in reserve. Hana agreed. Today, we question the technology exchange and population controls. Tomorrow, we address the mineral rights issues. On day 3, we reveal we know about their planned military bases disguised as research stations. When they returned to the main chamber, the afternoon session began with a different tone. The alien delegates watched the humans more carefully now. Some looked worried. We propose a revised section on technology exchange, said the Pleiades representative, sending new text to all screens. Hana reviewed it quickly. This is improved, but still restricts Earth from developing certain defense technologies independently. We cannot accept these limitations. High Minister Zoral leaned forward. These limitations are standard for new members of the Concordat. Your civilization is young, barely 300 years in space. The rest of us have had thousands of years of development. Yet in those 300 years we managed to fight your combined fleets to a standstill, Commander Jun said quietly. It was the first time he had spoken in the chamber, and all eyes turned to him. The day continued with careful negotiations. By evening, very little progress had been made. As the human team prepared to return to their quarters, Ambassador Krell approached Hana. You are very thorough in your review of our proposals, he said, his skin now a calmer blue. It is important to understand exactly what we're agreeing to, Hana replied with a polite smile. I'm sure you would do the same. The ambassador made a gesture that might have been respect. Tomorrow will be interesting. As the humans walked away, they didn't see the worried looks exchanged between the alien leaders. For the first time, the Galactic Concordat wondered if they had underestimated these newcomers to the stars. Day 3 of the peace talks started with tension in the air. The human delegation had spent the night analyzing more sections of the proposed treaty. Each hour revealed new concerns hidden in the complex agreement. Science officer Tae-jin Lee had not slept. Dark circles showed under his eyes as he worked in the small lab the Concordat had provided to the human team. The aliens had called it a courtesy. Hana Park had insisted on it as a requirement. These readings can't be right, Tae-jin muttered to himself. He ran the test again on the small container of blue liquid. The Galactic Concordat had presented it yesterday as a gift, a harmless terraforming bacteria that could help clean Earth's oceans. The scanner beeped and showed the same results. Tae-jin's hands trembled slightly as he saved the data and locked the sample in a secure container. In the conference room where the human team gathered before the day's negotiations, Hana reviewed reports on her data pad. Commander Jun Kim stood by the window, watching alien ships move around the space station. Security Chief Yun Choi monitored the room for listening devices, a task she repeated every hour. When Tae-jin entered, his face was pale. Hana noticed immediately. What did you find? She asked, her voice low. Tae-jin placed his data pad on the table and showed the results to everyone. The bacteria they want to introduce to Earth's oceans, it's not what they claim. Explain, Commander Jun said, moving away from the window. On the surface, it would help clean pollution as they promised, but I found hidden genetic markers in its structure. Tae-jin pointed to complex patterns on the screen. These aren't natural. They were added on purpose. What do they do? Asked Yun, leaning closer to see. They would spread through our oceans, enter our food chain, and eventually affect human biology. Taijin looked up at his colleagues. Over 3 generations, these changes would modify human DNA. The room fell silent as the meaning sank in. What kind of modifications? Hana finally asked, her voice steady despite the shocking news. Reduced aggression, increased docility, lower birth rates. Taijin listed the effects. And most concerning, changes to brain chemistry that would make humans more accepting of outside control. Commander Jun's jaw tightened. Biological warfare disguised as a gift. Are you certain? Hana asked. We need to be absolutely sure before we make any accusations. I've run the tests 3 times, Taijin replied. I even used different methods to confirm. There's no mistake. Yun shook her head in disgust. This confirms what we suspected. The ceasefire was never meant to be permanent. They just wanted time to weaken us from within. Vice Minister Jiho Kang, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. If they would do this, what else might the treaty hide that we haven't discovered yet? Hana stood up and walked around the table, thinking. The room was silent as they waited for her decision. We need to decide how to handle this, she said. We could confront them directly, or use this knowledge as leverage for better terms. They tried to poison our planet, Commander, Jun said firmly. That goes beyond unfair negotiations. This was an attack. Medical Director Min Ri, who had been analyzing Taijin's data, looked up. The changes are subtle. If Taijin hadn't been so thorough, we might never have detected them until it was too late. The Concordat clearly believes we're not advanced enough to detect such modifications, said Hana. They've underestimated us from the beginning. What do we do? Asked Jiho. If we leave without an agreement, the fighting could start again. Hana looked at each member of her team. I need to speak with Earth Command before we decide, but I believe we should confront them with this evidence. Their response will tell us whether any real peace is possible. An hour later, as the main negotiations resumed in the Grand Chamber, the mood had changed. The human delegation sat together, serious and united. The alien representatives noticed the shift. High Minister, Zoral opened the session. Today we will discuss cultural exchange programs and education initiatives. The Concordat is prepared to share teaching about advanced sciences with Earth's universities. Before we continue, Hana interrupted, standing up. The Earth delegation wishes to address a serious concern. Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was not on the agenda. Proceed, said Zoral, his large eyes blinking slowly. Hana nodded to Taijin, who activated the main display screen. A detailed image of the bacterial sample appeared, rotating slowly for all to see. Yesterday, the Concordat presented Earth with what was described as helpful terraforming bacteria for our oceans, Hana said, her voice clear and strong. We were told it would help clean pollution and restore balance to our marine ecosystems. Several alien delegates nodded, looking pleased with their generosity. However, Hana continued, our analysis has revealed hidden genetic modifications within these organisms. She nodded to Taijin again, who highlighted specific sections of the bacterial DNA in bright red. The chamber grew very quiet. These modifications, Hana explained, would enter Earth's food chain and over time cause significant changes to human biology, changes that would make future generations more compliant, less able to resist outside control, and less likely to reproduce at current rates. Shock and confusion spread across the faces of some delegates. Others remained carefully expressionless, which told Hana everything she needed to know about who had been aware of the plan. Ambassador Krell of the Arcturus hegemony stood up quickly. This is a misunderstanding. Those markers are standard components in all Concordat terraforming organisms. They ensure the bacteria remain stable in different environments. We have isolated each marker and traced its purpose, Taijin responded, calmly. Our analysis is thorough and verified. These are not stability markers. They are designed to alter higher life forms that consume them. High Counselor Vex of the Sirius Compact rose from his seat. His tall, thin body seemed to unfold as he stood. These are standard adaptations to ensure compatibility between species. Your primitive understanding of advanced genetic science has led you to false conclusions. Commander June stood beside Hana. Our primitive understanding was enough to detect your attempt at biological subjugation. The chamber erupted into loud arguments. Some delegates appeared genuinely surprised and turned to question others. A few remained silent, watching carefully. Hana let the chaos continue for a moment before speaking again. When she did, her voice cut through the noise. Earth rejects these bacteria and questions the good faith of these entire negotiations. High Minister Zoral raised his hands for silence. When the room quieted, he spoke in a grave tone. This is a serious accusation. The Concordat will investigate how these unexpected modifications came to be included. While you investigate, Hana replied, we will be reviewing every aspect of the proposed treaty in light of this discovery. As the human delegation left the chamber for a recess, whispers followed them. The aliens had not expected humans to detect such carefully hidden modifications. They had underestimated Earth's scientists, believed humans too desperate for peace to look closely at gifts. In their private room, the human team gathered again. Their reactions told us much, said Yoon. At least 5 delegations seemed genuinely surprised. The others knew. What happens now? Asked Jiho. Hana looked at the message that had just arrived from Earth Command. She read it twice before looking up at her team. Earth has made its decision, she said, and it will shock them all. The grand chamber of the Galactic Concordat was filled with tension. 2 hours had passed since the humans revealed their discovery of the modified bacteria. During that time, heated arguments had broken out among the alien delegations. Some demanded explanations. Others called for calm. The humans had stayed in their private room, reviewing the message from Earth Command and preparing their next move. Now, as they returned to the chamber, all alien eyes turned to watch them. Hana, Park walked confidently to the center of the room. Her team followed, their faces serious. Commander Jun Kim stood at her right side, his military posture straight and strong. Science Officer Tae-Jin Lee carried his datapad with all the evidence they had gathered. High Minister Zoral spoke first. The Concordat has discussed your concerns. We agree there may have been a misunderstanding about the nature of the terraforming bacteria. A misunderstanding, Hana repeated, her voice calm but cold. Is that what you call an attempt to modify our species without our knowledge? Ambassador Krell's skin pulsed with rapid colors. We have identified which members of the Concordat were responsible for these unauthorized modifications. They will be punished. How convenient, said Commander June. Unknown members acting without permission. The Pleiadian representative, a female with iridescent scales, moved forward. Earth delegation, we understand your distrust, but many of us knew nothing of this plan. We wish to continue negotiations in good faith. Hana nodded to Tae-Jin, who activated the main display. The bacterial sequence appeared again, rotating slowly with the hidden modifications highlighted in red. These modifications would fundamentally alter human physiology over 3 generations, Hana stated. Her voice carried to every corner of the room. Our scientists project a 30% decrease in aggressive response, a 40% increase in compliance behaviors, and a 25% reduction in birth rates. Murmurs spread through the alien delegations. In other words, Commander June added, these changes would make future humans easier to control and less able to defend themselves. This constitutes an act of genetic warfare. High Counselor Vex rose from his seat again. His 8 eyes blinked in patterns that showed his anger. You humans are paranoid beyond reason. These are standard adaptations to ensure compatibility between species and shared environments. Our primitive understanding detected your attempt at biological subjugation, June interrupted, stepping forward. Earth rejects these terms and all previous proposals. The galactic representatives exchanged nervous glances. Many of them had fought against human ships in space. They had expected to win easily against such a young species. Instead, the war had ended in a stalemate that surprised everyone. Now they were discovering that humans were not only surprisingly strong fighters, but dangerously observant as well. High Minister Zoral raised his large hands for silence. Perhaps we can start fresh. Create a new agreement that addresses Earth's concerns. One with more transparency. Hana looked at him for a long moment. The room grew quiet, waiting for her response. What happened next shocked even the most. Experienced diplomats in the chamber. Rather than offering counterterms or new demands, Hana simply closed her datapad with a soft click. The Earth Confederation is withdrawing from these negotiations, she announced. For a moment, no one spoke. The aliens stared in disbelief. Withdrawing? Ambassador Krell finally said. His skin had turned an unusual pale color, but that would mean... It means exactly what it sounds like, Hana said. Earth will not continue these talks. We will be departing this station within the hour. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted over each other. Translators struggled to keep up, and several species began making rapid communication gestures to their home worlds. The Arcturus ambassador pushed through the crowd toward Hana. This is madness. Without an agreement, the ceasefire has no legal standing. The fighting could resume at any time. We are aware of the implications, Commander June replied. High Minister Zoral moved forward, his massive body moving slowly but deliberately. Chief Negotiator Park, surely this reaction is extreme. We can address these concerns. We can offer better terms. Hana looked at him steadily. Minister Zoral, we have found 17 critical flaws in your peace treaty, provisions that would have slowly reduced Earth to a vassal state. We have discovered an attempt to biologically alter our species without consent. And just yesterday, we identified plans for supposed research stations that are clearly designed as military bases within our solar system. Several delegates looked surprised at this last revelation. Clearly, not all had been informed of these plans. Given these discoveries, Hana continued, Earth has no confidence that the Concordat as a whole is negotiating in good faith. We will not sign any agreement under these circumstances. The Pleiadian representative moved closer. Please reconsider. Many worlds within the Concordat truly desire peace with humans. We can create a new committee, with oversight from neutral parties. Earth's decision is final, Hana said firmly. She nodded to her team. We will return to our ship now. As the human delegation turned to leave, the chamber fell into shocked silence. No one had expected this outcome. Most had assumed the humans would demand better terms, perhaps even threaten to resume fighting. But to simply walk away from the table entirely, this was unprecedented in galactic diplomacy. Just before reaching the door, Hana turned back to face the assembled aliens. Earth remains open to truly fair and transparent relations with any species that wishes to approach us individually. But we will not deal with those who see us as primitives to be controlled or modified. With those words, the humans left the I chamber. In the corridor leading to the docking bay, Security Chief Yoon Choi scanned ahead for any potential threats. The tension on the station had increased dramatically and she was taking no chances. Do you think they'll try to stop us from leaving? Vice Minister Ji Ho Kang asked quietly. They wouldn't dare, Commander June replied. Our ships are standing by just outside the station's defensive perimeter. Hana walked silently, her mind racing with the implications of their decision. Earth had gambled everything on this move. Walking away from peace negotiations was dangerous. But continuing under false pretenses would have been even more dangerous in the long term. When they reached the docking bay, they found it filled with representatives from various species. All were talking at once, offering last-minute proposals and promises. The Sirius Compact offers immediate technology exchange, called one. The Procyon Alliance will withdraw all claims to the disputed sectors, shouted another. The Arcturus hegemony is prepared to pay reparations for damages during the conflict, said Ambassador Krell, his skin now cycling through colors rapidly. Hana raised her hand for silence. When they quieted, she spoke one last time. Your sudden generosity only confirms our suspicions. You believed humans would accept any terms to avoid further conflict. You thought we were too desperate, too weak, or too blind to see the traps within your treaty. She looked at each alien face before, continuing, "You were wrong. Earth would rather stand alone than kneel to unfair terms. Remember that when you decide how to proceed." With those words, the human delegation boarded their shuttle. As the airlock sealed behind them, Hana exchanged looks with her team. No one spoke until the shuttle detached from the station and began its journey back to the waiting Earth ships. "Earth Command confirms our decision was correct," Yoon said, checking her secure communications. "They're preparing for all possible responses." From the Concordat, Commander June looked out the viewport at the shrinking station. "The real question is, what will they do now?" Hana watched as the stars came into view. "They'll do what any group does when their plans fail. They'll panic, then regroup. And when they do, they'll finally understand that humans aren't the easy target they thought we were." The shuttle accelerated toward the Earth fleet, leaving behind a station full of stunned galactic leaders who now faced a situation none of their complex models had predicted. The human shuttle docked with the UES Defender, Earth's largest battleship. As the airlock door opened, Admiral Han greeted the returning delegation. His weathered face showed concern. "Welcome back," he said, saluting Commander June Kim. "I hear the negotiations ended unexpectedly." "That's one way to put it," June replied, returning the salute. "We walked out." The Admiral's eyebrows rose slightly, but he kept his professional composure. "The fleet is ready for your orders. All ships are at combat readiness." Hana Park stepped forward. "Let's hope that won't be necessary, Admiral, but it's good to be prepared." The delegation followed Admiral Han to the ship's command center. Large screens showed the Concordat station growing smaller as the Earth fleet maintained a safe distance. Other screens displayed the positions of alien vessels around the system. "They haven't made any aggressive moves yet," Admiral Han explained. "But there's been a lot of activity. Many ships are changing positions." "They're confused," said Security Chief Yoon Choi, studying the tactical display. "Their entire plan depended on us accepting their terms. They don't have a strategy for this situation." Vice Minister Ji Ho Kang checked his communication device. "We're already receiving messages from individual species. The Pleiadians want to open separate talks. The Procyon Alliance is offering technology exchanges." "And the Arcturus hegemony?" asked Hana. "Silent so far," Ji Ho replied, "but they were the most involved in the attempt to modify our biology. Taejin Lee was working at a science station, reviewing data from the station. There's unusual communication traffic between the Concordat members. Their unified front is breaking down." Admiral Han turned to Hana. "What are our orders from Earth Command?" "We maintain position for 12 hours, she answered. "We respond to any communication but make no agreements yet. If there's no hostile action within that time, we begin our return journey to Earth." "And if there is hostile action?" the Admiral asked quietly. Commander June answered, "Then we show them why the previous conflict ended in a stalemate, not a defeat." The hours passed slowly. The command center remained busy as the crew monitored every movement in the system. The human delegation reviewed the growing number of messages from various alien species. "The offers are getting better by the hour," Ji Ho noted. "The Centauri Union is now offering their latest medical technology with no restrictions. The Procyons have withdrawn all claims to the disputed sectors," added Yoon. "They're establishing a neutral zone as a show of good faith." Taijin looked up from his screen. "Most interesting of all, several smaller powers in the Concordat are suggesting forming a new alliance, one based on equal standing for all members." Hana nodded. "Exactly as we hoped. The Concordat maintained power by keeping its members competing against each other. Our exit revealed cracks in their unity." A young communications officer approached them. "Chief Negotiator Park, we've received an urgent message from the Concordat station. High Minister Zaral is requesting to speak with you personally." Hana exchanged glances with Commander June before nodding. "Put him through on the main screen." The large display at the front of the command center flickered, then showed High Minister Zaral's massive face. Even through the screen, his concern was visible. Chief Negotiator Park, he began, his deep voice rumbling. The Galactic Concordat wishes to express its regret for the misunderstandings that occurred during our negotiations. Those were not misunderstandings, Minister Zoral, Hana replied calmly. They were deliberate attempts to undermine Earth's sovereignty. Zoral's large eyes blinked slowly. Certain elements within our organization acted without full approval. Those responsible have been removed from their positions. How convenient, said Commander June quietly. Zoral continued, we propose new negotiations. The Concordat is prepared to offer Earth immediate admission to the Galactic Council, full voting rights, no probationary period. A murmur went through the command center. This was unprecedented. New species typically waited decades for such privileges. That is a generous offer, Hana acknowledged, but it does not address our fundamental concern, trust. The Concordat has shown it cannot be trusted to negotiate in good faith. What would restore your trust? Zoral asked, his tone careful. Time, Hana answered simply. Earth will return home. We will consider individual agreements with specific species who demonstrate honest intentions. Perhaps in the future, when those relationships have proven successful, we might consider broader arrangements. Zoral's face showed clear disappointment. You're breaking apart decades of galactic cooperation. No, Hana corrected him. We're rejecting domination disguised as cooperation. There's a difference. The communication ended. The command center was quiet for a moment. Admiral Han broke the silence. That was unprecedented. No one has ever refused council membership. They're scared, Hana explained, not of our weapons or our fleets, but of what we know, and what we might tell others, added Jiho. If Earth shares what we discovered with some of the smaller Concordat members. Exactly, said Hana. The revelation has already spread. Humans aren't just stubborn negotiators. We're dangerously perceptive. While most species evolved toward specialization, humans remained adaptable generalists. We're not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced, but we notice patterns that others miss. Commander June checked the fleet status on a nearby screen. Admiral, are we ready to begin our return journey? All ships report ready, Commander. Then let's go home, June said. The Earth fleet began to move, forming a protective formation around the diplomatic vessel. On the tactical displays, they could see the alien ships adjusting their own positions, but none moved to intercept or block their path. In the ship's observation lounge, Hana stood before the large windows, watching the stars. The rest of her team joined her, each lost in their own thoughts about what their decision would mean for Earth's future. What will happen now? Asked Medical Director Min Ri, who had been quiet during much of the journey. Something new, Hana replied. For centuries, the Concordat has controlled how species interact with each other. They've maintained power by playing worlds against each other. By walking away, we've shown there's another option. But we'll be alone, said Taejin. Earth against the Galacxy. Hana shook her head. Not for long, look. She pointed to a communication pad where messages continued to arrive. Already 17 species want to establish direct relations with Earth, including 5 that aren't even part of the Concordat. They see us as a potential new power center, said Yoon. They see us as something rare, Hana corrected. A species that values true independence over false security. As the Earth fleet accelerated toward home, they received word that 3 separate alien delegations had already requested permission to send representatives to Earth. The galactic political landscape was shifting rapidly. Commander June stood beside Hana at the window. Do you think we made the right choice? She watched as the stars stretched into lines as the fleet entered faster than light travel. We chose freedom over subjugation, honesty over deception. Yes, Commander, I believe we made exactly the right choice. On the Concordat station, now far behind them, the alien representatives continued their heated arguments. The unified front they had presented to humanity had shattered. Some blamed others for the failed negotiations. Some were already planning their own approaches to Earth, but all of them now understood one crucial fact. Humans were not the simple, easily manipulated species they had believed. They were something else entirely, something potentially more dangerous than any military threat. They were independent thinkers who could not be controlled. 6 months had passed since the human delegation walked away from the peace negotiations. Earth's skies now regularly showed the lights of alien ships arriving and departing, but on Earth's terms, not the Concordates. In her office overlooking New Seoul, Hannah Park reviewed reports with her team. The large windows showed the city's mix of traditional architecture and modern buildings. In the distance, a visiting Pleiadian ship hovered above the international spaceport. The Centauri delegation has finalized their medical technology exchange, reported Tae-Jin Lee, now Director of Science Relations. I've verified it thoroughly. No hidden surprises this time. Their regeneration treatments will help millions of people. Hannah nodded, making a note on her data pad. And the Procyon Alliance? They've withdrawn completely from the disputed sectors. Security Chief Yoon Choi confirmed. She touched a control, bringing up a star map on the wall screen. This area is now officially recognized as a neutral zone. No military vessels from any species are permitted. Admiral Jun Kim, recently promoted from commander, studied the map. Our patrols report no violations so far. The border has been quiet. And our defenses? Hannah asked. Strengthened, Ji-ho Kang replied. He had become Earth's trade minister after their return. But increasingly unnecessary. Several smaller powers have shared defensive technology with us as part of our new agreements. Hannah stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city was busy with humans going about their daily lives. Many were unaware of how close they had come to a very different future. What's most interesting, said Medical Director Min Ri, is how the Concordate has changed. Without us as a common enemy, their internal conflicts have grown. Exactly as we predicted, Hannah said. Their unity depended on having outsiders to control or fight against. When we refused to play either role, we revealed the weakness in their system. A soft tone indicated a new message. Ji-ho checked the screen. The Arcturus hegemony has finally sent an official communication. They're requesting to open formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Everyone in the room looked surprised. The Arcturus hegemony had been the most hostile during the negotiations and the most involved in the biological modification plan. After 6 months of silence, June said, his voice showing his distrust. Why now? Their message says internal political changes have led to new leadership, Ji-ho read. They express deep regret for past misunderstandings. Misunderstandings, Un repeated with a small laugh. That's what they call trying to change our DNA. Hannah returned to her seat at the head of the table. What they really mean is that they've realized the galaxy is changing around them. Without the Concordate's united front, they're losing influence. 7 former Concordate members have already signed independent treaties with us. Should we agree to talks with them? Asked Tae-Jin. Hannah thought for a moment. Yes, but cautiously. And on Earth, not on neutral ground. Let them come to us. The meeting continued as they discussed the many changes in the galaxy. The once mighty Galactic Concordate still existed, but had lost much of its power. Individual species now approached Earth directly for trade, technology exchange, and cultural programs. Earth ships can now travel to 32 star systems without special permission, Ji-ho noted. That's more than triple what the Concordate would have allowed under their treaty. And we've achieved all this without firing a single shot, said June with satisfaction. When the meeting ended, Hannah asked June to stay behind. They had worked closely during the negotiations and had developed a strong mutual respect. You seem troubled, Hannah observed once they were alone. June looked out at the city. Not troubled, just cautious. We've gained much in these 6 months, but I worry some of the older Concordate powers might be planning something. They probably are, Hannah agreed. But we're not the same planet they tried to trick half a year ago. We're stronger now, more connected, and most importantly, we understand how they think. A message appeared on Hannah's screen. She read it quickly. President Yoon wants us at the Global Assembly tomorrow. The Pleiadian ambassador is presenting their proposal for the new interstellar cooperative. Another alliance, June asked. Different this time, Hana explained. Equal membership for all species, transparent voting, and no requirements to share technology or resources unless freely offered. Sounds familiar, June said with a slight smile. Almost like the model we suggested during the negotiations. But the one they rejected as naive and unworkable, Hana remembered. Now 7 species want to form exactly that kind of alliance, with Earth as a founding member. Later that evening, Hana stood on the balcony of her apartment. The night sky above Seoul showed many stars. She knew that around some of those distant points of light, alien civilizations were rethinking everything they had believed about humans. Her communication device chimed. It was a message from an old friend who worked at the International Space Academy. With it came a video file, students from 12 different species studying together on Earth. The message read, "First interspecies graduation next month. None of this would have happened if you had signed that treaty." Hana smiled as she watched young aliens and humans learning side by side. This was the future she had hoped for, one where Earth engaged with the galaxy on equal terms, not as a controlled world. In the 6 months since walking away from the negotiations, humanity had accomplished what centuries of warfare could never have achieved. They had rewritten the rules of galactic diplomacy simply by refusing to play by the old ones. The species that had once dismissed humans as barely space-capable had been forced to recognize them as equals. Not because of superior weapons or technology, but because of something more powerful: humans' unwillingness to accept anything less than true equality. On the other side of the city, in the newly built Galactic Embassy complex, representatives from 17 species were gathered for a cultural exchange. Music from different worlds played as visitors sampled food and art from across the galaxy. Among them walked Earth citizens, curious and friendly. Many aliens noticed something interesting about the humans. They asked questions constantly. They wanted to understand how other species thought, how their societies worked, what they valued. This curiosity, this desire to understand patterns and connections, was what had saved Earth from becoming just another controlled world in the Concordat. It was what had allowed humans to see through the deceptions in the treaty when no one expected them to look so carefully. As night fell over Earth, diplomatic vessels from across the galaxy orbited above. Some were from old powers trying to establish new relationships. Others represented worlds that had never before reached out beyond their own systems, inspired by Earth's example. In her office, President Yoon of the Earth Confederation reviewed the latest reports. The screen showed the status of various new agreements and alliances forming throughout the galaxy. Chief Negotiator Park was right, she said to her advisors. Our greatest strength wasn't our ships or our soldiers. It was our refusal to accept less than we deserved. An aide entered with an update. Madam President, 3 more worlds have requested to join the interstellar cooperative talks, and the Arcturus hegemony has agreed to our terms for opening discussions. The President nodded. Tell them they're welcome, as long as they understand one thing. Earth will never again sign any agreement that treats us as less than equals. As the message was sent, ships continued to arrive in Earth orbit. The galaxy was changing, and humanity, once considered too young and too primitive to matter, was now at the center of that change. Not because they had won a war, but because they had been brave enough to walk away from a bad deal. Because they had shown the rest of the galaxy that true cooperation could only exist between equals, and because they had proven that sometimes the greatest power comes not from weapons or technology, but from the simple word, no. End.